Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Project Infinite podcast, a podcast covering the entire multiverse of fandom, from movies, TVs, comics, not TVs plural.
Are you selling TVs? Going door
I
to door?
We might have to start selling some TVs.
1950s all over again.
Yeah, so movies, TV, comics, video games, and I think we might touch upon pretty much all of that today.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah, so I'm Rob. I'm here with Courtney. Courtney, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I've been watching Titans for the last couple days.
That sounds fun. How you liking Titans?
It's an interesting show. I got some thoughts on that show. It's not as simple as it's just not too great. It's an interesting show. So hopefully one day I might talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, Titans is fine for what it is. I think it got a bad rap.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
It first launched.
Yeah, definitely improved over time. I'll give you that much. Definitely went on an uphill tick after that.
Yeah. So I think we're going to kick off with some video game stuff. PlayStation came out swinging.
They did.
Last week.
Yeah, they did.
The PlayStation Showcase, they showed off a lot of cool stuff. First and foremost is God of War for me. I am so psyched for God of War Ragnarok. I played the last version, and it's one of those games that takes your breath away.
Yeah.
Upon seeing it.
Yeah,
and playing it for the first time.
Right, and it's funny because we played that game together. We were talking as I was playing that game for the first time, and I think you remember my reaction to just opening that game for the first time, and it's just kind of like this rugged beauty to this game, and it's just this big open world dealing with these gods of myth, and just Kratos being one of the most recognizable, not only video game characters, but just characters in general amongst media. So definitely looking forward to completing God of War and then playing God of War Ragnarok. I'm definitely looking forward to that one now.
Yeah, the reinvention of that series really is staggering from the original iteration of God of War 1 through 3, where you go through the Greek pantheon, where it's this hack and slash kind of over the top kind of game, and Kratos is just like this murdering lunatic for the first 3 games, and there's really no depth to his character. But then they reinvented the entire franchise. They went with the kind of Last of Us over the shoulder camera angle, all one shot. The whole game is shot in one shot.
Yeah, which insane.
They're doing the same thing with Ragnarok.
I believe so. Yeah, I think I saw that.
Where the gameplay kind of pans to cutscenes and then pans back to gameplay, and they gave Kratos a lot of depth to his character in the newest iteration of God of War. And Fat Thor is back.
Yeah, he is. I guess the God of War developers saw Endgame and they were like, we're gonna do that now.
Yeah, so I'm psyched to see Thor and presumably Odin and see where this next iteration of God of War takes us. I'm excited. But then...
Oh, yeah.
So Insomniac, who people may know as the developers of the Spider-Man PS4 game, as well as Spider-Man Miles Morales, was launched last year, is developing not only a Spider-Man 2 game, but in the same breath are developing a Wolverine game. These guys at Insomniac are out of control.
I saw that and I had to take a step back for a second. I couldn't believe it. Because you think about it and it's always Spider-Man, you can swing through the city. We have the Avengers game from Square Enix, and it's the Avengers, one of the biggest IPs in the entire world. But Wolverine, I mean, I saw that and I immediately thought Last of Us mixed with Red Dead Redemption 2 mixed with the mechanics of the Spider-Man game. That's kind of the 3 things that I feel are going to be meshed into one. Just kind of the storytelling and kind of that more underground nitty gritty of kind of the Last of Us storytelling, with kind of that Old West theme that somehow Wolverine has kind of adopted onto himself, and then kind of just the normal gameplay of your other Insomniac games.
Yeah, and in this age of we all kind of know what everybody is doing at any given time, this blindsided me.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I think during the showcase, the Wolverine trailer came before the Spider-Man 2 trailer, so I was like, oh, okay, Insomniac's developing a Wolverine game. That's awesome. And
then the actual trailer came on the screen, and let me just set this up for everybody. He's in a bar, very Wolverine-esque, and there's just bodies just laying on the ground. And this guy, one of the other, let's say, goons, walks in, and you just see a man sitting at the counter drinking and with a cowboy hat on, and then it just pans to his hands, and the knuckles are bloodied up, and then the claws shoot out, and you're just, oh my gosh, we're getting an open world Wolverine game.
It's It blew my mind, like, when I saw it, because I was like, what?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, Insomniac's doing this.
Yeah, a little bit more mature than the Spider-Man games, which is nice. That's why I keep kind of relating it back to kind of that Last of Us 2. I think that's probably the closest comparison with just a superhero character, so that's going to be amazing.
And, I mean, the precedent they set with the Spider-Man game, I think they're going to do a lot of influences from the comics, but it's going to be a wholly original story.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited for.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to pull from with Wolverine, too.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So maybe some flashbacks, maybe some stuff dealing with maybe some other X-Men characters show up in there. That would be very exciting. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's going to probably be maybe a post-X-Men Wolverine or a Wolverine that's, like, detached himself from the X-Men. I don't know. They could take this in any number of directions. But Spider-Man, too.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh, yeah. So we open on this ominous voice, and if you're kind of a Spider-Man fan or a Spider-Man comic fan, you can kind of put two and two together and realize this is possibly and probably Kraven that's talking, just based on the accent and just based on the dialogue that he was giving, talking about an equal that he's been trying to find, which is Kraven's biggest thing is he needs an equal to kind of fight, and because he's a hunter, so he needs somebody that can give him the best hunt of his life. And if you've never read Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt, that's going to be my reading recommendation for this episode. A really dark Spider-Man story that doesn't really revolve around Spider-Man too much. It revolves more around kind of just the psychology of you wanting to be better than somebody, and it's just this kind of endless kind of game of tag that he's been playing with his mind to try to best one of the world's greatest heroes. So really dark story, really grim ending, but really impactful story. And Kraven being the villain, I didn't see that one coming either. I thought they were going to do something else, possibly a Norman Osborn, just based on how the first game ended, but I'm really looking forward to having Kraven. Just somebody that the fight scenes, I could just imagine him versus Spider-Man, a lot of hand-to-hand combat in game's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. And there's going to be, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of tag mechanics with Peter and Miles.
Probably like the Batman Arkham games, kind of on steroids. Like, it is going to be the whole point is to have the both of them being able to fight instead of just tagging Robin for a couple seconds and he hits somebody and then you just go right back to Batman. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be
able to do free roam with Peter, free roam with Miles. They'll probably each have their own kind of like storylines going.
Yeah, I had like a theory / like fan thing that I really wanted to happen. So, have you ever played Infamous?
Yeah.
So, one of my favorite games of all time. You know how you have the two paths you can follow and like kind of the dialogue will change, the story will change? I kind of am hoping they made two versions of this game essentially in the same one. So, if you pick a choice with Peter, it's a different path that it sends you on. If you pick a choice with Miles, so you have to fight with one of them. That would be kind of cool to just get you. It's going to give the game a lot of replayability too if you do that. So, that's something that I just thought of off the top of my head that would be pretty interesting.
And then the other shoe that drops in this trailer is someone, I mean, it's cut like a trailer, so you don't know if he's actually answering the call, but Venom, yes. And spoilers for the end of Spider-Man PS4, so just wanted to warn you before I jump into it. Venom in the Spider-Man PS4 universe is looking like it's Harry Osborn, so that's going to be interesting to see if we're going to even see Eddie Brock in this game at all. It's looking like it's just going to be Harry Osborn come back to life through Peter's eyes, and it's going to add a lot of depth to his character because Harry had a lot to do with like Peter's motivations towards like the third act of the game, especially when you go to Osborn Tower 2 and you kind of have to investigate some things. It gives you a lot of past because I believe he's 24 when the game picks up. So there's a lot of stuff. It's been 8 years since he was bitten by the spider. So there's a lot that happened, which is one of my favorite things about that game. And just Spider-Man overall, his lore is so rich and it has so much stuff that you can pull from. So just having a game where you can just see any villain or any character pop up, it's going to be great. Yeah, I mean, they chucked Taskmaster into the last one. It's just like kind of like a mini game,
right?
Kind of like side quests, which was cool.
Yeah, you see Easter eggs everywhere. You have the Wakandan embassy. You have
Sanctum Sanctorum.
You have the Murdoch and Nelson building in there. You have Josie's, which is a big thing in the Marvel Netflix universe too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things in there.
Yeah, and Venom is voiced by Tony Todd.
Yes.
The Candyman himself.
And
Zoom.
And Zoom from the Flash show. Yes.
And he's got that Zoom voice.
Yeah. You remember when Zoom just carried Barry through the city in episode 6 of season 2? One of my favorite moments.
I wonder if they're gonna This might be a little before your time, but the Ultimate Spider-Man game.
What are you trying to say?
You're a young buck, is what I'm trying to say. But the Ultimate Spider-Man game, I believe it's a PS3 era game where it's based in the Ultimate Universe, and you switch back and forth between Spider-Man and eventually Venom. I wonder if Venom's going to be playable.
Interesting.
At some point in this.
That is interesting. Because especially with Tom Hardy's Venom, we have all this Sony craziness that's been going on. We have this new Spider-Man movie that's coming out. A lot of times what games will try to do is, and comics too, they'll try to mimic what the big, large picture thing, which is the movies, which kind of dictate everything we'll do. So I would not be surprised, I want to say, but it would be a nice surprise to have Venom be playable. So,
and then the one more thing I wanted to kind of look at with this trailer was, so he has the advanced suit on using the Iron Spider arms, which gave me Superior Spider-Man vibes.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Because, again, spoilers for the end of the last game, Doc Ock is not only locked up in prison, but he constantly bemoans to Peter at the end of that game that his body is failing.
Yeah.
Which is essentially the crux of Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah. Where
Dr. Octavius inhabits Peter Parker's body, and you see him, the Superior Spider-Man suit is the Spider-Man suit imbued with the arms,
right?
To mimic Doc Ock. And you see Peter using the iron, like you could use the iron arms in the last game, but it was as part of the Infinity War suit,
right? And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of looked almost like Doc Ock's arms from the first game. It kind of looked like them a little bit. That's what I got from that. So that's definitely a possibility. It would probably give some more credence to Miles too, and Miles' story, because his mentor is not the person. Kind of like the end of Spider-Man Life Story, the comic, where the last issue was still Otto Octavius Otto was in Miles' mind. So just to kind of see something and then the rug pulled out from under him, that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe there's more to that than meets the eye, or if he will, transition to Superior Spider-Man, and we do see Otto take over Peter's body throughout the game. Like, that game does not hesitate on emotional punches.
No, it does not.
So, I don't know. Could be interesting. So what else?
What else do we got? So, just a quick thing that I saw this morning, Christopher Nolan is leaving Warner Brothers. So that's a pretty big one for all my movie lovers out there. Yeah, this man really has kind of revolutionized this big budget blockbuster filmmaking over the last couple years. It's kind of been his realm since the mid 2000s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
That like large scale non-superhero movie that usually comes out every couple years. So this is huge, and I gotta think this has to do with the HBO Max deal that 100%. Happened. Getting every filmmaker's movies straight to the streaming service the same week as the box office. That can't be fun for people that have worked on these projects and like the idea of the theatrical release, going to the movie theater, getting all that box office revenue as well. So yeah, he's going to Universal for his next film with Cillian Murphy that's going to star in it. One of my favorite actors, by the way. Love Cillian Murphy. Fan cast, I hope he plays Dr. Doom. That's my Cillian Murphy fan cast if he were to go into the MCU. He's really like grim and subtle, and I think that's a lot of traits that Dr. Doom has as well. But beside the point, he's going to Universal. No more Warner Brothers, it seems, and that might get some other directors and other personnel like composers, writers, cinematographers to go over to other production houses too. So I wouldn't be afraid if I was Warner Brothers, but I would be a little tentative at this point. And I believe in 2022 that HBO Max deal is probably going to go away. I don't think they're going to want all of their movies on HBO Max, especially after the success of Shang-Chi, seeing that we can go to the movie theaters and we can have fun and we can have these big audiences. So yeah, we're going to see. Like we keep saying it, I feel like Dune's going to be the one that's the non-superhero movie that's going to tell us what the movie theater is going to look like for normal movies going forward. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, good on Nolan for kind of spearheading this and leaving, because it's a pretty big departure for the movie industry for him to depart from Warner Brothers and join someone else. So I don't know. Anytime you can mix it up, I think, kind of taking it back to the superhero thing, we saw what happened with James Gunn. Yeah. When he was kind of under Disney's spell for a little bit and then got let go temporarily. Right. And he signed on with DC and gave us
arguably the best DC movie that we've seen to this point.
One of the best comic book movies, and honestly, one of the better movies of this year, period.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you mentioned Shang-Chi still going strong at the box office. Second week in a row, #1. This movie's, I think, exceeding expectations that I think even Disney had for it.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about, because when you just think about when the placement of Shang-Chi came out, it came out after the Spider-Man trailer and after the Eternals trailer. Like this, there was just so much Marvel things happening, and I've kind of felt for a little bit, like 2 weeks and a week before Shang-Chi came out, that Shang-Chi was kind of like slipping off the ice. It just kind of felt like it was getting pushed back, because every YouTube video was Spider-Man theory, Eternals theory, this, that, coming at you. And then it was Shang-Chi came out, and it was just a good film with a lot of great action set pieces and a lot of heart, and that just helped it a little bit, and just a nice movie you can take your friends, family to see. Mm-hmm. I've seen this movie 3 times, and not because I do like this movie a lot. It was just different people wanted to see this movie. But on my 3rd viewing, and it was, I want to say 2 weeks after this movie came out, about like a week and a half, the theater was pretty packed, honestly, and it was about a week and a half after the movie came out.
I think what that is good word of mouth, honestly. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the momentum that Guardians 1 had.
Yes. Yeah.
Where you had this unknown entity, and people saw it that were like Marvel fans, saw it like opening weekend, were blown away by it, and that passes through the channels, and then you get more casual people going in to see it, and then, you know, keeps it going. Right. And I think that's really awesome, particularly with this movie, because like I said, I'm not sure Disney even had this high expectations. I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but they had that comment from one of their higher ups where this Shang-Chi was being looked at as quote unquote an experiment. Yeah. And kind of the cast, particularly Simu Liu, took that
he was not
quite
happy
personally.
About that. I really like Simu Liu.
Me too.
He doesn't really care about, like, the machine, like, the corporate machine. Like, I feel like he would risk a lot of stuff just to get a point across, and I like that kind of, that just courage that he has, and he kind of brings it to the character, so I hope he is just super successful, even outside of Marvel. I hope he has a great career. I know he's been working his tail off since he was in his early 20s.
And we've seen when you get kind of an unknown-ish actor into these big Marvel roles and the movie is popular, their careers explode.
Yeah, they do.
So, I mean, it's, you know, tale of two coins with the Marvel casting. It's either you get a really established actor to bring credence to a role, kind of like what you're going to see with Angelina Jolie in Eternals, or you get a relative unknown, or you get a reclamation project like a Robert Downey Jr. Right. Like, you know, people complain about the Disney machine and the Marvel machine, but this machine really helps a lot of A-list actors. I mean, the Scarlett Johansson stuff aside. We're not going to get into that, but yes.
And the other side of that, too, is it doesn't only help these actors. They might have just saved the cinema and people going to the movies. They simply might have just saved our just normal way of life, because before, a lot of people were not afraid, but they were kind of just tentative about going to the theaters. They didn't know what was going to happen, how it was going to look, how it was going to feel. And then I feel Shang-Chi did a great job of just bringing people together, and just for a calming purpose of just having fun and watching a film and enjoying it. Yeah,
so I'm really psyched about the positive reception this movie's gotten and the money it's making. Like, it's just really great, especially for the future of the MCU. Yeah, because, you know, doing what they did already. I mean, we talked about on the show before the scope of the 20-some-odd movies, building a shared universe. Like, it could have easily expired by now.
Oh, yeah.
But it feels like with Shang-Chi, I won't even say with the Disney Plus shows necessarily, but with Shang-Chi in particular, this feels like a revitalization of the MCU. Yeah. So I'm pretty psyched. Speaking of the MCU and MCU adjacent, Andrew Garfield continues to be Schrodinger's Garfield.
Yes. Andrew Garfield. Blink twice if you're in trouble.
Why are they harassing him?
They are harassing him. Why is he
the only one getting harassed?
Did you see him on Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah.
Was it Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel? I think it was Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
One of the Jimmys.
One of the Jimmys on network television is interrogating this man. Leave him alone.
Why is no one harassing Tom Holland?
They're not.
If anything, he's vulnerable.
Yeah, he is. He's like the innocent kid.
He would give up the information.
He would.
Where's Tobey Maguire? Why is no one harassing Tobey Maguire?
They know better than to mess with Tobey Maguire.
That's true.
This guy's a tough guy.
But I don't understand why Andrew Garfield's getting harassed all of a sudden about Spider-Man.
He's the middle child, that's why. He is the middle child.
They're like, you're in it. He's like, I'm not in it. I'm not. But even if I am, But if I'm not, people are going to be mad anyway.
Right.
Even though I told you I'm not.
Right.
Like, I feel bad for him, man.
Me too. Yeah, I feel like he's trying to work on some films. By the way, Andrew Garfield is a very good actor.
Yeah, Social Network. Look him up.
Social Network, Silence from Martin Scorsese. A really underrated Scorsese film that a lot of people don't even know he directed. Him, Adam Driver, Liam Neeson. I actually watched that about a month or two back. Really, really amazing film. Under the Silver, another kind of conceptual film that's really fun. So, guys, leave Andrew Garfield alone and go look at some of his other work.
Yeah, leave Andrew Garfield alone.
Come back in December. We'll figure this thing out.
He's going to be in Spider-Man 3.
He probably will. I think he's lying.
Yeah, I think he's lying too.
Yeah, he's just him and Toby are just gonna swing in their suits at the premiere and be like, guys, so we lied.
But still, leave him alone.
Yeah.
That's my PSA for the day.
Yeah.
Leave Andrew Garfield alone.
Yeah. So switching back to DC, Peacemaker. Spoiler alert. You guys got about 5 seconds before I spoil the Suicide Squad.
Also, we talked about this already.
We did. So if this is your first episode you're listening to, first off, go back and listen to the other ones and then come back. Peacemaker's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not dead. So they're making a Peacemaker show.
January.
In January. Out. Oh, that's quick.
Mm-hmm.
That was really quick. So might get a trailer soon too. So that's
probably
good.
I would say Fandom will probably.
Oh yeah, and Fandom's in October, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get a trailer for that. So that's gonna be great. Yeah, John Cena's coming back. We kind of see all of the Amanda Waller's henchmen coming back. We see a solid amount of them, and there's one more character that I'll let Rob talk about that's going to be in this show as well.
So Chris Conrad, I want to make sure I got his name right, is playing Vigilante in Peacemaker, aka Adrian Chase, which that's a character that has a complicated TV history.
Yes, he does.
We talked about him a little bit when we talked about our best seasons of superhero TV, when we talked about Arrow season 5, because Vigilante is in Arrow season 5. Ouch. And Adrian Chase is in Arrow season 5, yes. So comic fans put 2 and 2 together that Adrian Chase was going to be Vigilante, and he's not.
He's not.
Another guy is Vigilante and Adrian Chase is Prometheus, but in Peacemaker, they did confirm that he is playing Adrian Chase, so a more kind of typical portrayal of the costumed vigilante known as Vigilante.
Yes. This show's gonna be bonkers, I think. I just think this is gonna be like one of those crazy shows where it's...
I think so too.
Yeah, just off the rails. It's just gonna be more of what we got in the Suicide Squad. I don't know who's directing this show. I'm gonna look this up soon, when we probably do a preview for this show.
I think James Gunn's doing a couple episodes. I think he might be doing the pilot and he might be doing the finale.
Okay. I mean, that's probably where you want your... It's like playing baseball and having your batting order. You kind of want your heaviest hitter batting either first or third. So
yeah. And then the other bit of DC news is the Batman is just getting heaps of spinoffs.
Yeah. You guys like spinoffs? Go check out the Batman. So Colin Farrell is going to be playing Penguin and the Batman, and he's getting a spinoff show.
Look. This feels like DC doing too much again, because they already got the Jim Gordon police procedural spinoff,
which I was fine with. As long as Jeffrey Wright's the main character, then I would be fine with it. But I don't know if that's even true. Yeah,
he might not even be in it. It might just be like a Gotham Law and Order show.
Which, I don't know how I feel about that.
We tried that already.
We did try that.
And Jim Gordon was in it.
Yeah, he was the main character.
And it still wasn't that good.
No. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes.
We're getting a Batgirl spinoff?
Which I'm fine with. That I'm actually very fine with.
Yeah.
Black Canary, I'm fine with that, because these are your B-list heroes just getting some more storytelling like they're kind of doing in Marvel with the Disney Plus shows. But
now we're getting a Penguin spinoff.
Yeah.
We're spinning off of a movie that we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, I think Warner Brothers have kind of been catching the hype that people have for this movie and just Batman in general, and they're like, well, here's a spinoff for every character. Like Catwoman, I probably would understand. Zoe Kravitz is a pretty big star, Colin Farrell is one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, period. But yeah. I gotta see. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't want to talk poorly about it yet. I don't love the idea of that just yet. I gotta see more, hear more about this. Maybe we'll get other characters and other heroes, so yeah. And
then the last thing we kind of wanted to talk about before we got into our main topic, Die Hard.
Yes. MCU's Die Hard.
MCU's Die Hard. So Hawkeye finally got a trailer.
Yes.
The much anticipated Disney Plus show that is kind of the bookend of this 2021 iteration of Disney Plus TV.
Yes.
Coming from WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki and What If to an extent. But man, does this ever look fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I said, as soon as I watched this trailer, I texted you and I said, this is just fun. It's as simple as that. And I think we need some more of that. I said the MCU's been kind of, not like fully, but it's been kind of dark the last couple of years. I feel like honestly, kind of like Civil War outside of the Ant-Man movies, Civil War Beyond has been pretty dark. Maybe Captain Marvel, not too much, but once you get into the big Infinity Saga that you had up until Endgame, it was pretty grim and somber and a lot of like brooding, kind of this big force coming after everybody. Even the end of Thor Ragnarok, probably the funniest movie that you had outside of Ant-Man and the Wasp, it ended on a very dark note. So yeah, just happy to kind of see some fun, just some holiday fun. And I said that's going to help this show. So this show's coming out November 24th. It's going to help because everybody loves Elf, right? Elf's one of the best Christmas movies of all time.
Yes.
I watched
So is Die Hard.
Yeah, so is Die Hard, and we're just going to get this out of the way. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I don't care what anybody says, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
Yes. So I think this is going to help because now this is almost going to be like the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Christmas show, Christmas property. And that's kind of cool, too, because we've seen we're going off of 25 plus projects by the time this is coming out. That's a lot of stuff to go off. So we've had heist films, we've had spy films, what else have we had? We've had kung fu films. We've had so much different things.
Space westerns. We've had sci-fi films. Like we've had we're possibly getting like horror and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So you have all these genres that you're messing with. Throw in a Christmas movie in there or a Christmas property. Also throw in a Die Hard.
Like
Die Hard is one of the most like. Not platform, but like building block kind of premises that...
It's a cult classic, yeah.
Yeah. And like you've seen elevator pitches where, take like Speed for example.
Yeah.
Like Die Hard on a bus.
Yeah.
Die Hard on a train. Die Hard, but he's The Rock and he's jumping between skyscrapers. Like that's basically a Die Hard movie. So now it's Die Hard, but he's Hawkeye.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm excited for this. The trailer, not the craziest trailer that anybody's ever seen. It's pretty straightforward, but it did its job. It just set up Hawkeye post the snapback, I'll say. The snapback. His whole family's back. Minus his wife, ? Maybe they didn't get Linda Cardellini back to play Laura Barton. We'll see. Don't know yet. But yeah, we see his kids back. They're enjoying Rogers the Musical, which I did laugh out loud when I saw that. That was pretty cool.
I laughed, but I also got like Batman vibes. When they were leaving the theater, I'm like, what's going to happen to Hawkeye's family right here?
They kill everybody except for his youngest son.
Thanos comes back.
No. Why? Do you not want him to be happy? He lost Nat. He lost Pietro. I think he didn't like Pietro. I think he was okay with him dying. That's beside the point. So yeah, the big thing that came from this trailer, and new character alert, Haley Steinfeld is playing Kate Bishop. So that's
she is charming as all hell in this trailer.
She is. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say she's probably gonna get the same reaction that Florence Pugh got as Yelena Belova in the Black Widow movie, if not more than that, because Haley Steinfeld's like a bona fide star at this point. She's been in so many movies, so many properties. She's got her own show on Apple TV. Yeah, she's everywhere right now, and everybody loves her.
She's the voice of Spider-Gwen.
Yes.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Right. And yeah, she's just got so much going on, and perfect time for Marvel to kind of pass the torch. And that's one thing that I wanted to talk about from this trailer. This is the next passing of the torch. So this is honestly the third big one, if you think about it. We've gotten Captain America, Steve Rogers passing the torch to Sam Wilson. We've gotten Florence Pugh getting the baton from Scarlett Johansson for Black Widow, and now it seems like Clint Barton's going to hand it off to Kate Bishop. And more on that, it gets to the Young Avengers, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But do you want to talk about what this is pulling from mainly? Because we haven't really talked too much comics here yet, but this is a pretty big one.
Yeah, so this is coming from the Matt Fraction Hawkeye My Life as a Weapon run, which is one of the best comic book runs,
I would say all time.
Yeah, I was gonna say within the last 20 years or so, but you can go as far as to say is one of the best comic book runs ever.
Yeah, what this book has, there's this there's this comedic subtlety, almost, I don't want to say straight up like The Office vibes, but it kind of feels like 30 Rock, like that, just kind of in that vein where it's just Hawkeye and all these like just crazy outlandish things are happening in an apartment building in New York, like just nuts stuff. Like there's like a gang trying to kick tenants out. Like the first panel, Hawkeye's just falling out of a building and he just falls in a car, and like he's just getting beat up the entire show.
Die Hard.
It is very Die Hard. Kate Bishop shows up, he starts to train her, and you see in the trailer that car chase at the end, that's just pulled straight from the comic. It's even down to like the scars that he has on his face are like, I remember Jeremy Renner shared the picture a couple months back when it was like the first official, not like unofficial look at like what he's gonna look like the cut on the nose and the cut on the cheek are literally from the Hawkeye My Life is a Weapon run. So this is probably going to be one of the closer adaptations. Obviously we haven't seen it yet, but this looks pretty close to that run.
Yeah, and even when you look at the poster that they released, if you look at that poster and you Google some of the Fraction covers from those comic runs, they look very visually similar.
Yes, they do. And yeah, so let's get back to Kate Bishop. So Kate Bishop is part of the Young Avengers, and you kind of see this team forming. So
kind of in the background.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool.
It is kind of cool. And I like that they're not just hitting the gas and just going full send on it. They're kind of leaving it a little ambiguous at this point and saying...
Well, they're building it in the background.
Yeah, they are.
These other major stories.
Right. It's not like, well... We saw Isaiah Bradley in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so he's going to be Patriot tomorrow. It's not like that. We saw the twins in WandaVision. It's not, they're going to be teenagers tomorrow and they're going to be Young Avengers. Let's just slowly just say, hey, Eli Bradley fought in World War II, or not World War II. He was injected with the super soldier serum, and his grandson may or may not have it. Simple as that. Wanda has 2 kids that she made from herself, and... They may or may
not be real.
Yeah, they may or may not be real. So we don't know yet. So I kind of like that subtlety and that kind of just slow tapping, just getting there a little bit. So Kate Bishop's probably going to be the first one that's kind of apparent that she's probably going to be the first of the Young Avengers. So
because she more or less wants to be like an Avenger.
Yeah. She's like, I think that got explained as she's a Hawkeye fangirl, which is going to be funny because I'm going to assume that there's going to be points in the show where it's going to be, well, everybody, I love Captain America, I love Iron Man, and there's going to be like that small sect that's like, well, Hawkeye's pretty cool, and everybody's like, no, he's not too cool. So
yeah, like I said, it's the MCU Die Hard. It's not even being it's being pretty transparent about it, like even down to like his mannerisms in the trailer, where he's just like getting pummeled.
Yeah, he is.
And he's just kind of over it. He's like, he's like, oh yeah, I'll be home for Christmas. He's like, I'll be home in a couple days. And he's like, he's like, a couple days, right? But yeah, it's so Die Hard. I can't wait. Right. I'm so much more excited for the show than I was. And I was already pretty excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as Haley Steinfeld got announced as Kate Bishop, a pretty cool comic character, I was like, sign me up. And then somebody else got announced for this show. And that's Florence Pugh coming back as Yelena Belova. So at the end of Black Widow, spoilers again, Val from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show shows up again. Val. Oh, sorry. I can't remember her full name right now. So if there's the sniper pointing at me, just let me know. But yeah, so we see her show Yelena a picture of Hawkeye and said, this is the person that killed your sister. And it looks like if a tracksuit gang and possibly Kingpin, which I'm going to get into in a second, is kicking this guy's butt up and down New York, just add one of the best assassins in the world to that list. And it's kind of going to show a cool dichotomy between his love for Black Widow and Natasha Romanoff, and seeing his possible hatred for her sister that's just nothing like her. So that's
I expect that conflict to be resolved pretty quickly.
And I also expect that conflict to be resolved through Kate Bishop as being, I'm not going to handle this. I'm going to have your one's protege and the other's protege handle this. And it's going to I'm going to say this show might end with the two of them kind of being partners now. I also think what would be cool is if we get a new era Budapest scene with Kate Bishop and Yelena Belova instead of just like a nice little callback, and like maybe you kind of like see scenes from it and then like they just like go over it with the two of them too. That would be nice.
So I heard you say Kingpin.
Oh yeah.
What's that about?
So there's rumors. There's
rumors.
The
best word.
Yes. That Vincent D'Onofrio. So this is going to be the first one because this comes out before Spider-Man No Way Home, where it's being speculated that Charlie Cox is going to come back as Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio apparently will come back in this as Kingpin, and that's a pretty big place to put him. And it's cool because in the comic run, there's a moment where there's this auction. So Hawkeye kills, I believe it's some like head of state or something, or so like a leader of a foreign country, and there's the tape of it. And like people are trying to buy the tape, and Kingpin's one of the people trying to buy the tape to like, they can just blackmail Hawkeye with it, I guess. And it looks like there's scenes in the trailer that also look like that. Like they're dressed very nicely going to like an auction, it almost looks like.
And Kingpin likes an auction.
Yeah, Kingpin loves auctions. He loves his wife and he loves auctions.
Yeah, and he loves... Well, he doesn't love the Russians anymore.
No, he doesn't. But in the comics, too, that Red Suit gang, so that gang that we see all around this trailer, they work for Kingpin on top of that, too. So very easily can be adapted. And yeah, that would be cool just to... You don't necessarily... It doesn't have to be Daredevil, Luke Cage, whoever, just throwing in right away. Throw another character in there like Kingpin. So yeah, it'd be cool because he's street level. Hawkeye's pretty street level. So yeah, just nice introduction to get all these Netflix characters back into the MCU.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So that's going to bring us to our main topic, spinning off of heroes getting pummeled. This episode's about heroes getting pummeled.
Yes.
It is our best, favorite, whatever you want to call this, MCU fights.
Yes.
So, a couple ground rules, sort of. We're not doing, like, big army CGI fights. That's out. It's more going to be either 1-on-1, 2-on-1, you know.
Right.
Whatever.
Smaller hand-to-hand action. That's what we tried to kind of limit this down to. So I think the first one that I'm going to go with, probably Vin Diesel versus Jason Statham when they were in the parking garage in Fast and Furious.
Oh, man.
You thought I wasn't going to go a week without it. You were wrong.
Look, the streets always win. Okay? Or the street always wins.
Great line. I love the Vin Diesel, man.
That's the thing about street fights. The street always wins.
God.
Stomp the ground, parking garage explodes.
Jeez.
So good.
Transition. Speaking of the streets always winning, let's go to some street level heroes. So we'll start small. We'll start with the
excellent segue.
It was solid. I'll start with heroes for hire. So Danny Rand, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage.
Whoa.
Yeah, we'll start with that.
I bet you didn't think we would start this topic with an Iron Fist topic.
Yeah. So I have a theory, right? For Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Have them together. Don't have them apart. It's super simple. Have them together. That's step 1. Step 2, play some Wu-Tang Clan. That's easy. Step 3, have them beat up a bunch of guys, and that's what happened. So in season 2 of Luke Cage, not my favorite season, because season 1, episodes 1 through 6 were some of my favorite television that I was watching, and then they killed Mahershala Ali's Cottonmouth, and that show just kind of tailed off. And it gets to season 2, and there's Danny Rand's back, and has his head on straight. He's much more centered with his chi, how he should have been in his own show. Beside the point, they have a great fight together, and it's super simple. Like I said, it's just some nice rap music playing. They're fighting. Who are they fighting? Is
it Bushmaster's crew?
Yeah, I think it's Bushmaster's crew. They're fighting, and yeah, man, they're integrating their powers well together. There's a moment where Luke Cage holds his hands up, and Iron Fist punches his hands, and like it's just a shockwave destroys the entire room. And you just kind of see some just solid hand-to-hand. Danny Rand being the immortal Iron Fist, so some street level guys should not be able to even land a punch, and Luke Cage just holding people like an older brother around is hilarious. So yeah, I just wanted to start with that. A smaller fight just shows you some of those smaller street level characters kind of mixing it up a little bit. Just a cool one to start out with.
I'm going to go to a fun one. I'm going to go Ant-Man vs. Yellow Jacket in the first Ant-Man movie.
That's a good one.
Because this is one of the most fun fights in the MCU. Ant-Man also has another fun fight when he fights Falcon also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one. That is a fun fight.
But particularly him in Yellow Jacket, it's just a great... I think what the theme of this is going to be is not only great kind of hand-to-hand action, great, choreography and cinematography, but also like when the hero's powers are integrated into the fight, and you get that in spades in this Ant-Man vs. Yellow Jacket fight, where they're fighting essentially in a children's room.
Yeah, they are.
But like everything feels so grand. Like they're fighting like a Thomas the Tank Engine is involved. He's dragging them across like fake train tracks. Right. Yellow Jacket's using lasers, and they use like a pan out shot of what you would see normally, and it's just like these little laser blasts, like just shooting around.
And like Ant-Man's about to get hit by the train, and then like you see it like on a normal scale, and like the train just falls, and it's just
the train just tips over.
Yeah, great stuff.
I really enjoy that fight in a pretty underrated kind of movie, and you know, I know not just you, but a lot of people have issue with the hero fighting the mirror version of himself.
Right.
But I think this is one of the better versions of that. Like, I think it's better than the Ironmonger fight.
Right.
I think it's better than the Black Panther Killmonger fight.
At the end.
Yeah.
Because the fight where T'Challa fights Killmonger, we're going to talk about that one because that's a really good fight. But another fight that I wanted to segue into, I'm going to pick Captain America versus Bartrock at the beginning of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And I specifically picked that one because that's the first influence that we got from the Russos in the MCU. And honestly, I said this before we hopped on, it was almost like we weren't just getting like a really good Marvel action movie. We were getting a pretty solid, just normal summer action blockbuster too. And it just starts with Captain America simply showing off his power. Like you said, it's cool to see these heroes use their powers practically in universe. Like, he straight up almost kills a guy when he kicks him off the entire boat.
Kills that guy.
I think that guy's dead. He killed a couple guys.
Captain America's kicks are the most lethal weapon
in the
MCU.
Yeah, and he uses his kicks a little bit in the Bartrock fight, but it's cool because from a comic lens, this like outlandish villain that uses like his jumps for his power, and it's just ridiculous, is cool because it's scaled down to like real, where he's just acrobatic, and it's just a fun fight where you just see not a lot of quick cuts, just nice hand-to-hand action. You see Chris Evans do a little bit of work too. I know he worked hard on that Winter Soldier film. What's Bartrock's real name?
George St. Pierre.
Yes, George St. Pierre.
MMA legend, George St. Pierre.
Really cool to get somebody like that to fight Captain America like that. That's probably that's insane, just as like a former fighter turned actor. So,
and what I also like about that fight scene and that sequence as a whole is you see how Captain America's fighting style has evolved.
Yeah, it has.
From Avengers and First Avenger, where he was kind of like Brooklyn Brawler, fisticuffs.
Right.
In those movies, to now he's like more sleek, more like Bourne, kind of like Jason Bourne.
Right.
He really learned from like the Shield way of fighting, and presumably learned a lot from Natasha also.
Yeah.
And you kind of see like how his fighting style evolved between Avengers and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, add some more depth to the universe too, and it kind of lets your brain kind of flow like what's happening off screen, because there's a lot happening off screen, kind of like almost the end of Age of Ultron leading into Civil War. Like, how much training did they get from different people, like the new Avengers team that we got? So yeah, definitely I like that point. That's a really good one. But what's another one that you got?
I'm going to talk about a more kind of magic-y one. Doctor Strange versus Thanos from Infinity War.
Yes, that's a great one.
It's not a fight in a conventional sense or in the kind of rules that we established right at the beginning.
The CGI rule has been thrown out the window.
Yeah, but it's our show, and I can throw out whatever rules I establish at any given time.
Dictator Rob is back. You were Dictator Rob, I think, in episode 2, when you told everybody to watch to listen to every episode before you come back.
Yeah.
Yep. He's back.
So
Thanos Rob is back.
Yes. So this fight is freaking great.
Yeah.
Because we get to see Doctor Strange do all the Doctor Strange stuff that he hadn't done up until this point. Mm-hmm. We saw him do some firecracker kung fu in his movie, where he's like, "Look at this! I can make a circle and make some shields, and I can make a whip, and it's about all I got."
Yeah.
And everybody else can pretty much do that if they train them the right way.
Right.
So, not that impressive. Ragnarok, he does some sleight of hand stuff. He throws Loki through a portal. He zips Thor around the sanctum.
It gets kind of cooler. It gets
cool.
A little cooler.
It's impressive.
Right.
But it's not like awe-inspiring.
Right.
And then he fights Thanos, and it's like the most Doctor Strange thing ever, because Thanos rolls up and Doctor Strange is just sitting there.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're much more of a Thanos." And Thanos is like, "All right, so we gonna fight or what?" And Doctor Strange is like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna fight, and it's magic time, son."
Yeah. No, it's a really great fight, and it's just kind of the visuals were just really cool, of just him pulling the planet together to pull Doctor Strange to him, Doctor Strange turning like a black hole blast into butterfly, like just the most nuts thing, using like, I think they call them the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, I'm pretty sure they call them, to like hold Thanos in place, and then Thanos using the Reality Stone to figure out, or the Soul Stone, I think, to figure out which Doctor Strange was the
when
real
he
one.
uses like the multiform technique.
Yeah, and it's like just these nuts things that you would only think you would see even like seeing like a Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby drawn comic.
It's
just
very
to be
comic booky.
Yeah, it is, and it's great. That's a good example of comic bookiness being used for good.
Yeah, it's like I said, and you see Thanos kind of tactically using all the Infinity Stones to kind of. It shows kind of how formidable Doctor Strange is.
Yeah, he is. Also, and then it just kind of lends a little bit more credibility to the What If episode with Doctor Strange of simply how powerful. And I think that's, I think I said it before. I think that's what they're going to kind of tackle in Multiverse of Madness, is how powerful really is Doctor Strange, because if he could do that to a man that had, what did he have? Four out of the 6 Infinity Stones. And then even before that, he beat the Hulk just straight hand to hand.
Maybe he did have, because there's 6, right?
He had 4 because he didn't have the Time Stone before the fight. And then Vision still had the Mind Stone.
Right. So, but even up until that point, you really only see Thanos basically use the Power Stone the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he really needs. Or, like, he'll use the Space Stone to, like, throw a moon.
And then transport across the universe, so...
Yeah, but against Doctor Strange, he's got to use all the tricks in the bag to kind of hold Doctor Strange off. You know? I just really love that fight scene because it, like I said, it shows just how powerful Doctor Strange is. It shows him doing different stuff that's not the firecracker kung fu. So... Yeah.
Another one that I'm going to go with, so I'm going to bring it back down to reality a little bit. Widow versus Widows. So, Black Widow. There's one of my favorite, I don't know why I really attached myself to the scene and just thought this was awesome, but there's this moment in the Black Widow movie. So, this is before they get the serum or whatever it was to, I guess, undo the conditioning that all the widows had. So, it's I want to say 12 to 15 widows versus Natasha. And my favorite part about the scene is it shows you that there's a reason why she was an Avenger and the rest of them are just assassins. So, I know she kind of gets beat up a little bit, but there's a couple moments where she's just handling all of them. And it's really cool. It just shows you how formidable she is, how trained she is. I mean, she's had to probably spar against Captain America, the super soldier in universe. I mean, an android that is an impenetrable android, a woman that can move objects with her mind, so she has to stay alive at some of these moments. She's trained with some of the greatest assassins. She's trained under Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D., so it kind of, like I said, it just shows you why she's the one that was picked to be an Avenger over everybody else, all these other assassins that they could have got. So that was a really cool one, and yeah, she kind of sunned all of them, which was fun.
Yeah, until just reality sets in. Yeah, and she's just outgunned.
Yeah, she is.
And outnumbered, and she gets beat up a bit.
Right.
But no, I think that's a really good one, and it's one of the best sequences in that movie. As a whole.
Yeah, just kind of a lot of tension in that scene because it's like that trope where it's one against a bunch. You're like, oh, how are they going to win this? Obviously, they're going to find a way. But there's a second where I'm like, I don't know if she's actually going to win this or if something's going to happen to him. Because it was kill order. It was just kill her right now. It wasn't capture her. It was she needs to be taken out. So yeah, it just shows you how hard Scarlett Johansson's been working over the X amount of years she's been playing Black Widow. So that was a fun one.
Yeah. What am I going to jump to? Oh, I'm going to jump to Shang-Chi because, I mean...
Man, I wanted Shang-Chi. I thought I wanted to talk about Shang-Chi.
Fight scenes in the movie, basically. But the one I'm going to pick out is... We talked about it a little bit in the Shang-Chi review episode, but it's a brief fight where he fights Death Dealer on top of that building. It's kind of like you said with the Black Widow fight. There's a lot of tension in that fight scene because up until that point, you see Death Dealer in flashbacks.
Yeah.
Where they are beating up Shang-Chi, training him. So this is kind of like his mental hurdle, and they just go to work against each other. There's a knife flip.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a good knife flip.
Yeah.
We'll probably talk about another knife flip
we will.
later on. But the action in this is just crisp.
Yeah.
It's really sharp.
No cuts. There's rarely a cut. It's showing you Simu Liu's, his hand-to-hand. There's a great video that... So, I think I talked about it during the Shang-Chi review, the villain, I guess, from the Jaden Smith Karate Kid movie. He grew up, his kids grow up, and he and Shang-Chi, I guess, got together, and they filmed, this quick fight scene, but it was just no cuts. It was just Simu Liu just fighting, and you can kind of see that translated into this. It just feels more real, when you see their faces fighting, not just a bunch of cuts, kind of masked actors.
And it also looks like they're genuinely trying to kill each other.
Yeah, that does.
Which is a problem in a lot of fight scenes. I kind of jump over the Star Wars movies when I think of this thing, where if you go back and watch the Phantom Menace fight between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul, especially the Obi-Wan sequences, it doesn't look like they're really trying to kill each other.
It's just like they're tapping their swords a couple times.
Like banging sticks against each other. Like they're not really like, you don't really see like, oh, like if he missed this, he would kill this guy.
Right.
There's, you know, it's just like choreography for the sake of choreography.
Right.
But in this, the Death Dealer Shang-Chi fight, like every blow feels like, it feels like I'm watching like a Mortal Kombat fight.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And then, just that moment, and then it, like I said, I think I said this to you, I don't even know if I said it on here, but my favorite thing about Simu Liu is he kind of does his acting with his fist and like with his fighting. Like it gives a lot of character development to him, like his moments where he's more ferocious, his moments where he's more like finessed. It's kind of cool to see. So you see both in this fight, and then it adds to his character development in the movie too, where he's about to kill Death Dealer, and you kind of get that glimpse of this. He's not like Steve Rogers and just a goody two shoes. Like he's got some dark stuff to deal with, so that was pretty cool to see as well. All right, so we got Shang-Chi, we got Widow, we got the big scale of Thanos. So I think I'm gonna bring it back down to TV, and I'm gonna go Bucky and Sam versus John Walker. So man, I think people are kind of mixed on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I feel like that was the show that resonated the most with me for whatever reason. But so after episode 4, and that was the one where everybody erupted. That was the scene with the shield drenched in blood, that kind of Dutch angle shot of John Walker, and I remember Twitter just erupted after that. It was nuts. And then we got to episode 5, and I thought they couldn't top that. We got John Walker finally has the serum, everything's looking bad. And then we got one of my favorite fights in the entire MCU. So it's as simple as John Walker's mind's it's just going a million miles a minute. It's just too much information. He has the super soldier serum. I'm like you saying Suicide Squad. Can't get the words right. And he's kind of in his own mind. There's this crazy moment where I kind of said this before, where John's like, time to go to work. Like he hears Lamar's voice in his head, and I'm like, this guy he's nuts. Like
snapped.
His mind completely snapped. And Bucky and Sam walk in, and it shows you how powerful and how kind of trained Bucky is, because Bucky, he can't match Bucky hand to hand, but John Walker's way more ferocious than he is. Even though Bucky was like a hitman, he's an assassin. He's not somebody that's gonna like flail around, but John Walker
also like the mind control thing too.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a trope in any type of storytelling, is like anyone that's being mind controlled is infinitely more dangerous when they're not mind controlled. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Bucky, when he's not mind controlled, you know, holds back. You know, he doesn't want to tap into that like darker part of his persona.
That was a theme from the show too, and especially with a beautiful scene in the beginning of episode, I think it was the beginning of episode 4, where you see Ayo with him undoing the Winter Soldier conditioning, and Sebastian Stan giving probably one of my favorite just quick MCU acting moments, where he's just crying and all of that past trauma is leaving him. But like I said, you see John Walker full out just crazy man trying to kill these people because he believes he needs that shield to be the best version of himself when he doesn't. That's not the point of being Captain America. And you just see Sam's kind of how formidable Sam is too. And that's one thing I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier did extremely well. And that was from the first opening action sequence when he was with Torres and they were fighting Bartrok's crew. It showed you that Falcon's not just the guy with the bird costume. Like he can fight hand to hand. He's an absolute menace in the skies. Like, I don't want to see that man. He was taking out full-on helicopters there. So yeah,
he needed it.
Yeah, he needed it. He
needed a win, because that guy I talked about it when I talked about Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. Like Ant-Man, like Paul Rudd, fresh in the Ant-Man suit, beats Falcon.
And they made such a point in the Ant-Man and the Wasp that, like, Scott's a bumbling idiot, so it also didn't look good for Falcon retroactively to say, like, how did this guy beat you? And
you're Captain America's, like, apprentice.
Yeah.
And you got beat by a guy who's had an Ant-Man costume for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and trust me, he redeems himself. But for this fight, the number one thing that I take from this fight is the brutality. Like, and it kind of showed you that Disney Plus didn't really pull any punches. This wasn't something where you don't have to show it. It's not like you're going into the movie theater with your entire family. Like, there's a moment where they snap John Walker's arm, like, the other way. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're like, Sam's pulling, like, absolutely hitting the thrusters, like, pulling the shield off of him. They break his arm. There's a moment where Bucky, like, open hand slaps John Walker with the metal arm, and like just blood comes like splattering out. I think John's like just straight up about to kill Sam, but like there's just a lot of great just hand to hand, especially between Bucky and John Walker. So yeah, really great fight that just had a lot of like tension and a lot of like just darkness upon it.
And I feel like that's the kind of fight that people were waiting for in that show, because we hadn't really gotten it up until that point. And I think that's what you were talking about with like the divisiveness.
Yeah.
Is I think people had a certain expectation for that show, and it necessarily wasn't matching those expectations. You know, it turned into this narrative about, you know what's a great fight in that movie? Falcon versus finances.
Tony, why didn't you give any of the Avengers any money?
Falcon versus the bank.
You gave some 16-year-old kid from where is he from?
Queens.
From Queens, just an unlimited amount of money and resources, but you didn't give the actual Avengers any money?
Yeah. Falcon versus the bank, Falcon versus racism.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that.
There's a lot of great fights in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
If you look beneath the surface and get to the subtext.
Yes.
But as far as hand-to-hand fights, that's the one that really sticks out.
Yeah.
Even more so than when Sam becomes Captain America and he fights Bartok again.
Yeah, that one's more of like the hero moment. Like I think I probably talked about in every episode. Like that's probably the biggest superhero trope in any media, is the superhero moment where they become like the hero, and like the message is like, for a Spider-Man example, like when Peter's like lifting the stone, like the building off of him in Homecoming, and then he fights Vulture, and it's like he's looking at himself, and it's like the great power, great responsibility thing. Like that's what happened in episode 6 with Sam. But like that fight was just, that was a fight for like the soul of like what the mantle of Captain America is going to be about. And it was so personal too, because Sam didn't want this, and Bucky told him, I didn't watch my friend like age himself out and practically die. I didn't watch myself be brainwashed over this serum for all these years for you to not take this shield and become the best version of yourself I know you can be. So
yeah. I had one. Oh yeah, I know which one I want to transition to. You know, sticking with Bucky for a bit, we got to talk Iron Man versus Steve and Bucky from Civil War.
You want to talk about personal fights in the MCU? Yeah.
Dude.
Even down to the music in that scene just really drives home that point that this is probably going to be the one that like has the most weight. They fought Ultron, they fought Loki, and like the universe could have ended, but this is the one where it feels like everybody's like livelihoods could end right now, and their friendships can all end. So
yeah, and again, it's a great use of everyone's powers. Yes. You see Bucky and Steve working together as only Bucky and Steve can. Mm-hmm. You know, throwing the shield back and forth. You see like what makes them best friends,
right?
And, like they kind of know what the other's thinking without saying anything. Right. You see Tony use all the tricks in his book to fight, you know, one of his best friends or someone that he thought was his best friend.
Were they best friends?
I mean,
they were co-workers that were cool with each other.
I think they were friends, sort of. They became kind of chummy in Ultron.
Yeah. And then it didn't become so chummy because they
came to blows.
Yeah, they did come to blows. They don't. I'm gonna just go say they don't like each other too much.
No,
they respect each other.
Yeah, and man, still trying to figure out how the Iron Man identify his fight pattern and immediately counterattack thing worked. But whatever, Tony Stark.
Yeah. If you guys ever have a question about the MCU, the answer is probably Tony Stark. Who's the villains in the movie? Probably somebody Tony Stark created. Where'd Spider-Man come from? Probably Tony Stark.
But then you also see, like, Cap knowing Tony's, not weaknesses, but
it's almost like his mind. Like, he just knows what he's gonna resort to, because he's known his father, he's known him for so long, he's known his arrogance. It's like the old man. It's kind of like that moment in Shang-Chi where Guangbo's yelling at Wenwu, and then Wenwu says, like, Guangbo, like this old man, and he says, like, don't speak to me like that, boy. Like, I've been alive for a long time.
You see Cap, like, chipping away at the repulsors. Yeah. He's hitting his boots, you know, and then Bucky save Steve, honestly, which is a nice kind of callback to the first Avenger when, you know, Steve's getting his butt kicked and he's like, I can do this all day. And then Tony goes in for, I don't want to say the kill, but he goes in to incapacitate Cap, and Bucky steps in, much like he does in First Avenger. Yeah. It's a very nice like callback, and then Tony just whacks his arm off. Yeah. But then that gives Cap the opening he needs to bury Tony, pretty much.
That last frame where Tony's laying on the ground with the shield, and you just see the mountains and the snow behind him, and he's yelling at him like, you never deserved this, like, you didn't deserve this shield, it was my father's. Like, man, this is like, this fight just has, like, the most emotional weight to me, probably, I would say, like, in the top tier of the MCU, probably the top 3 in terms of, like, the emotional punch that it threw. So I'm going to dial it back down a little bit and to my favorite television show of all time, Daredevil, and I'm Daredevil versus hallways and stairwells.
Daredevil versus Russians.
Yes, Daredevil versus Russians, Daredevil versus the Chinese, Daredevil versus foreigners is never...
What are you saying about Matt Murdock?
I'm not saying anything. It's a stand-up individual. But... I mean,
they're ninjas.
They are. They're ninjas from the hand. And so there is... I don't even know which one I want to talk about because he gets one in each season. But, I mean, I think I have to go to the OG fight. So...
The Russians.
Yes. So, a kid gets kidnapped, and Matt Murdock hears everything because that's his superpower. And he... Ooh. Yeah, ooh.
He can hear things.
Still beats Iron Fist, so... he gets to a hallway, and you want to talk about, like, camera work and cinematography. So this is where I think people saw this Daredevil show, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Because
he gets to a hallway, recognizes the hallway, and he's like, it's go time.
Yeah.
Now my real superpower.
Yes, hallways. So it's just this great frame. So you just see it goes to one end of the hallway, it just pans to the rooms, you see the kid, they throw the kid in the room. The Russians are playing video games, watching soccer, whatever, and then it pans back over and it's leading towards, and then it's just drenched in green light, and Matt just steps up in his first suit, and it's just a one take. He's just mowing everybody down. But the best part about Daredevil, he's also getting the crap beaten out of him as he's fighting, but it's just kind of drives home that message of Daredevil, in my opinion, is no matter how hard you get hit, you get back up. That's what he learned from his father.
Isn't that the motif of Rocky?
Well, his father was a boxer. That's what I was getting at. Not a very good boxer. I think he said his father was like 24-31, so battling Jack Murdock, I wouldn't take him. He'd still beat Jake Paul, but I wouldn't take him. I hope so. I couldn't handle him losing to Jake Paul. But yeah, this fight, it's just so brutal and just so, it's like, it's gross. Like, it's just, you see him, like, every hit, like, there's a moment where he throws a punch and he just immediately falls on the ground because he's exhausted. It's not like this ultimate, like, fighter, I can just keep punching somebody. It's real because you can't just punch something for an extended period of time and not get tired. It's the most realistic.
Like, in that scene, there's, like, these small beats where, like, nobody's on the screen.
Yeah, yep.
But then, like, a Russian comes, like, flying out of a doorway.
Yeah. And it's not like he's kicking people, like, across the hallway with, like, super strength. It's how probably normal people, like, guys that aren't trained versus somebody that's, like, actually trained in, like, hand-to-hand combat would fight.
Like, if you went to a bar and saw two guys get into a brawl, you'd see, like, a less nuanced version of this fight.
Yeah, you'd probably be less clean, but then one of them would, like, be trained in something. That's how this fight is, and it's the one that probably put the crowning magnum opus on the Daredevil show of why it's the best, in my opinion, from the Netflix universe. And the only things that are comparable are the Winter Soldier fight between Cap and Bucky and the Shang-Chi fights, in my opinion.
That's the other knife flip I wanted to talk about.
Yes, yeah, go
I'm back
for
to
it.
Bucky Barnes and Captain America.
You love Bucky Barnes.
I love everything about the Captain America movies.
Yes.
It's the best trilogy of movies in the entire MCU. I don't think it's that close, but that's a discussion for another day. Because I want to talk about
You didn't see Thor: The Dark World, apparently. God.
I want to talk about Cap versus Bucky. Or at that time, it's Cap versus the Winter Soldier.
Steve Rogers versus Bucky Barnes, because he's in civilian mode. He's wearing, like, Jordans or something, I think.
He's got the shield, though.
Yeah, he does.
On the highway, and this is just non-stop action from when they're in the car, and Winter Soldier rips the car open.
R.I.P. Jasper Sitwell just throws him into oncoming traffic. Man, I'm glad they got that conditioning out of his brain. That man was a psychopath.
And this is what you talked about earlier with not just Steve Rogers' work as a martial artist, but also Chris Evans' work.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in real life.
Yeah.
Like doing stunt work, because there's a lot of close-up shots of some, like, it goes back to the Shang-Chi thing where it looks like Cap's not really trying to kill him, but Bucky is definitely trying to kill Steve.
Yeah, he is.
Steve's more like Steve. You see Steve in a position in this fight that you don't see him in often, where he's on the back foot. Like, he's playing defense for pretty much this entire fight.
Yeah, he's even against, like, Ultron, he was kind of throwing a lot of blows.
Yeah, he's throwing hands with a robot.
Yeah, he was, on a bus.
And holding his own.
Yeah, he was.
In this one, he's not really holding his own.
No, he's not.
Kind of, like I said, he's just kind of playing defense the entire time. And Bucky is just this relentless killing machine.
Right. No, and it's great. And talk about like adaptations that are great, and just seeing Chris Evans' work, like you said, and just the quick knife drops to hit him, like he drives the knife into the truck to try to like cut his head off essentially, and just like quick hits and just nice camera work. Like it's good. Like it feels like a Bourne movie. Like it's just really solid action with not a lot of cuts everywhere that are just masking everything. Like my like opinion on that is like if you don't cut the camera every 5 seconds when you're fighting, it just makes it feel more real. It's as simple as that, and it helps. So that's a great one. Another great fight from the MCU. So I'm going to go with, I know you threw it out, like the CGI fight. So I'm going to go with a moment from Spider-Man Far From Home, which kind of, so I know there's this big trope from like Spider-Man in the MCU. These are the people that don't like it, that he's like the least accurate Spider-Man in terms of he's Tony Stark Jr., I guess is the trope. So there's this great moment. So they kind of teases it early in Far From Home where it's the Peter tingle, because I don't know if Sony has the rights to say Spider Sense, or I don't know. But gets to the end of the movie and he's fighting Mysterio's drones, and it just cuts. Everything cuts. Mysterio throws an illusion at him, and he takes on each drone, and it just kind of drives home like why Spider-Man's one of the greatest heroes of all time. It's just that like sixth sense that he has. Really cool to see him like no music for a second, just straight hands with drones and Mysterio for a little bit.
It's the Daredevil hallway fight, but with drones.
It is in London. It's great. But yeah, just shows you that, man, Spider-Man he's like, if he really focuses up, and it just, also this helps with his development in terms of, he's a kid, like, it's not like he's Tobey Maguire Spider-Man where he's been doing this for a little bit, like, he's still learning, like, he's still 17, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be, like, 17, 18 by the time we pick up in No Way Home, so, like, it's not like, I feel like people think he should be, like, already, like, established and already know everything. Like, that's not great development in my opinion. Like, he should be able to lose sometimes and like need help with some things. But yeah, what a great like sequence of just, I didn't expect it. I remember I was in the theater and it was like everybody's like, oh my god, like this is amazing, like this is like the most Spider-Man thing that we've gotten.
Yeah, and I think you touched upon the music cut, which I think really amplifies that scene, because it's like there's always like a weightiness when a film cuts music out.
Yeah.
I come to mind Bane versus Batman in Dark Knight Rises when he fights him in the sewer. That's totally without music, and that amplifies that scene by like a bajillion.
No, he should have said, "You think darkness is your ally" in that scene when he just cuts everything to black for a second. Missed opportunity, Marvel.
And then, I mean, that scene ends on a really high note with the gun when he catches the gun and he's not looking, and he's like, "You can't fool me anymore." Mm-hmm. And then he kills Mysterio because he's a menace.
Yes, he is. I feel like we're always on the side of whatever, like, the in-universe, like, fan theory is.
Propaganda is.
Yeah, whatever the propaganda is. So, for DC, Barry Allen's father killed his mother because he's a murdering psychopath.
Needs to be stopped.
I'm glad he's in jail. And Spider-Man killed Mysterio. That's where we're at. So,
yeah, he's a menace.
Yeah, no sympathy for this kid.
So I'm going to throw one at you that we didn't talk about beforehand, and that is The Punisher versus Goons in Daredevil Season 2. It's like the R-rated version of a Daredevil hallway fight. Yes. Because it's the Punisher not using heaps of guns like he's known for using. It's not him fighting PTSD, which he often combats.
Yes.
But it's just him, and they literally lock a door behind him.
Yes.
And Kingpin set him up because Kingpin's the worst.
He just cares about Vanessa. Is he really the worst?
Yeah, he's the worst.
Okay. Agree to disagree, but okay.
It's these prisoners, they're armed with shivs and all sorts of makeshift weapons.
Yes.
And it's the Punisher, but just his hands.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about brutal?
Yeah, it's cool because you think Punisher, guns, shooting, and then he just gets into 1 versus 20, and he takes all of them out. And getting back to why Marvel Netflix is really good, he's not just going in there clean shaven, getting like a punch thrown off him. He gets stabbed multiple times in this, gets stabbed in the leg. I'm pretty sure he gets stabbed in the stomach, and he's just still keeps going, just taking every person out in the most brutal way you can think of. Like, stabs a guy in the eye, cuts a guy's throat, just full on just stabbing a guy multiple times in the stomach until he dies.
Hatchets the guy in the head at the end. Does.
Great.
And then he just kind of falls back, and he's just like covered in blood.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow.
And I like it because I think everybody else has the orange jumpsuits on and he has the white one, so like at the end it's just covered in blood and his face is covered in blood, and it's like, yeah, I if I saw the Punisher on the street, I probably would cross the street or just I'd be real scared.
That's so good. I'd forget. I didn't bring it up earlier because I didn't think about it until just now when you're talking about Daredevil. And I'm like, oh, the Punisher has one of those. Because you're not a Marvel Netflix hero unless you have a hallway fight or a building fight. Luke Cage has one when he has the car door in season 1.
Yep.
That's his version of it.
Yep.
I don't know if Jessica Jones ever has one.
Does she? Her mom might have one.
Her mom probably has one. Yeah. But I don't think she does. Hers is more psychological battle.
Yeah.
And a fight against alcoholism.
Her and Tony Stark.
Which he loses. He beats his alcoholism.
Yeah, he does.
She definitely doesn't.
Yeah. Tough. But another one that I'll go for, I think I'm going to go with the T'Challa vs. Killmonger, since we talked about it a little bit earlier. So, we talked about weight with that Captain America fight, but this one was just straight... like, you just sunned somebody. Like, you told him, you're simply not as good as me. And this fight, what it brings is, I've been training for something, like, this means something to me that you can never possibly understand because you come from, like, a place of privilege where you've been this kind of prince your entire life. Like, I've had to fight my entire life just to get to this mountain to fight one of the most dangerous men in the world. And when he hits, what does he hit him? I think he hits him over his knee, and then he just holds him up, and it gets one of the most iconic lines that everybody says, "Is this your king?" And, like, I know I keep using the word brutal, but it's a really somber fight, throws him off the cliff. Yeah, this fight, man, it's just, you feel bad for T'Challa, like, as almost, but...
like he just became the king?
Yeah, he just became the king and he was killed. And it shows you how dangerous Killmonger is too. And it's not just like this trained assassin from the United States. Like, this just helps with, it's not as simple as, I just need to do this because I'm some guy that got hired to do something. It's, your father killed my father, and I'm stopping at nothing until you're dead, until I get this throne. Yeah,
and it does one of the things that I really love about when movies are at their best is when it immediately presents the antagonist as a threat, and this immediately establishes Killmonger as a threat.
Right.
Like, he whoops T'Challa.
Yeah. And what's cool is that this comes after Civil War, when T'Challa was going hand to hand with Captain America, hand to hand with Bucky Barnes, like, all these great heroes that you know are the most formidable fighters, and then he immediately goes to another guy that he's never met before on his own home turf with everybody rooting for him, and he completely kicks the crap out of him. Like, it's not even a close fight. Like,
close for like the first minute.
Yeah, and it's funny because T'Challa kind of rallies against M'Baku in the first fight at Warriors Falls, but this time it's not close. It's just every blow that he takes is just handled by him. And I love Michael B. Jordan's dedication, because he looks physically menacing to somebody, and T'Challa was already like, Chadwick Boseman looked in peak shape that you could, and he just made him look small. Like, he just said, like, the workouts he was doing was insane, and that just helps a little bit. So just seeing this formidable person and thinking, well, I'm still the Black Panther, I can still take him out, and then simply, with all the training, all the memories you have from all the past Black Panthers that just can't help you against him, is really, really cool to see, and just really just kind of dark and just sad and somber until they bring him back to life. So
yeah,
another great one.
Yeah. And the last one I think I want to talk about was, you didn't think I was going to talk Captain America again, but here I am.
Third time's the charm.
The elevator.
Yes.
Dude.
The memes that came from this fight. Incredible.
You thought Daredevil in a hallway was dangerous? You've never seen Captain America in an elevator.
Yeah.
This guy is outnumbered some 10-1 in an elevator.
Gadgets and...
They got all sorts of anti-Captain America weaponry.
They are. I gotta think that, like, they were in a lab and they said, what's the best thing to take down Captain America? It's
magnets?
Like, yeah, magnets. And it didn't help. It doesn't work, guys.
And the best... I mean, obviously, the best part about that fight scene is Captain America immediately picks what's going on. And he's like, all right, well, before we get started, does anyone want to get out? And if I was in that room and he said that, I would have been like, oh, this is my floor.
Yeah.
See you later, fellas.
Hey, by the way, Captain America, they're all Hydra. We're all Hydra. I don't care if I get fired. I'll just go find another job. I'll actually help you fight these guys if you want. That's how the conversation should have went, because
nobody gets out.
No.
And they immediately regret it.
Idiots.
They use their anti-Captain America weapons, their magnets. They try to strap him to a ceiling. They try to disarm him with a shield, and he just totally whoops these guys, and it ends with the great Captain America hero shot where he kicks the shield up and catches it with his hands. And I'm just like, this is peak Captain America.
Yeah. And then he proceeds to jump out of the elevator. And then he takes on a Quinjet by himself, because what else would Captain America do in that situation? Great job, Chris Evans. You did great.
That movie is amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Marvel movies. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I always adjust my lists for comic book movies and Marvel movies, but Winter Soldier, the two movies that always seem to get just right back to the top is always Guardians 1 and Winter Soldier. So
I think it's the same for me too. I've been wrestling with that recently with Shang-Chi coming out.
Yeah.
I think it's in my top 5 now.
Is it?
I think it might be. Yeah.
We might need to do the thing.
Oh, the top 5s?
Top MCU in general.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without giving it a ton of thought, like just off the top of my head, it's Winter Soldier, it's Guardians 1, it's Infinity War, it's Shang-Chi is in there, and then I think it's Ragnarok.
Okay. Are you putting me on the spot? Now I have to go?
I mean, you don't have to, but you'd be a coward if you didn't, so...
I'll never back down from a fight. I'm going to say Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Infinity War. Ooh, this is tough. This is super tough. I'm going to say Civil War. And I'm going to round it out. With Black Panther. I think that's my top 5.
Civil War that's the spot. I think it's like that, Shang-Chi and Black Panther are all wrestling.
Yeah.
For like that 5th spot for me. Yeah. And I feel like Shang-Chi is there.
Yeah. What's your most underrated MCU movie?
Doctor Strange.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
I had this conversation with somebody recently about how I wasn't hot on Doctor Strange upon seeing it in theaters. I was like, yeah, it was okay. Cool visuals. And then before my Infinity War rewatch, I rewatched all the movies. Mm-hmm. And I watched Doctor Strange again, and I was like, this is a really good movie.
Yeah, it is. I have a theory on why I have 2 theories, but my main one, and it's crazy to think about, one is Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, just works throughout that entire movie. You know who she's kind of like? She's kind of like Uncle Ben, but alive.
Well, for a time. She's alive for a time.
I forgot. I didn't forget, but yeah. She's just kind of like that mentor that just keeps giving out nuggets of wisdom, and Doctor Strange's like, shut up, I know what I'm doing, until it gets to too late, and he's just like, maybe I probably should have listened. And then,
you know what else Doctor Strange one has? Spirit Punch.
God. My other theory for the movie before we get to is Michael Giacchino's score for that movie just elevates every single scene that it's used in. It just, one of my favorite parts from the movie is the ending shot where he's in the sanctum and you just see the symbol on the window and it's just the big score just blaring, and it's great. It's just, Michael Giacchino's doing the Batman, he did the Spider-Man movies, did Doctor Strange. I love that guy. Did Up.
Up is great.
And The Incredibles.
The best MCU movie. The best Fantastic Four movie.
Yes,
The Incredibles.
We don't have to get into that. Ooh. You want to talk about fight scenes? Fantastic, I said the Fantastic Four. The Incredibles versus Goons. Great fun.
But as always with topics like this, we don't have enough time to talk about everything.
We didn't talk about 2003 Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
No, we didn't.
Sorry, guys.
We didn't talk about original Fantastic Four.
Original recipe Fantastic
Chris
Four.
Evans gets all the powers and fights Doctor Doom.
We didn't talk about the X-Men movies either. We didn't talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine.
That's fine.
Are you sure?
Wolverine versus Deadpool.
Yeah. Great fun. It wasn't.
But yeah, we can't touch upon everything. If you want, shoot us an email, tweet us, whatever. You can tell us your favorites. That'd be great.
Yeah, please do. I want to hear some opinions. That's what I want to hear. I want to see like some fights that we didn't mention, maybe from non-movie stuff, so maybe from some of the shows. I know I had on here a fight from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has a lot of great fight scenes, but there's one where Chloe Bennett's Daisy/Quake is just taking out Hydra goons in a one take, and it's incredible. She worked hard on that one, so that was a fun one. But yeah, just show us some more, tell us some more that you guys like that are underrated and should be talked about more.
Yeah, so before we get out of here and start doing plugs, we kind of been volleying back and forth the last couple of weeks of like a thing we read or a thing we watched. So I read recently DCeased, a 6-issue miniseries written by
Tom Taylor.
There it is. And grim.
Yeah.
Super grim.
Oof.
So I'm not going to spoil it, but it's what if zombies again.
What if zombies DC? That's what it is. DCeased.
Yeah. Basically, the premise is... This isn't a spoiler. The premise is essentially like a technovirus makes its way to Earth via Cyborg, via Darkseid.
Cool concept, I might add. That's actually a pretty interesting way to do a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, grim. I mean, almost all of the Justice League are killed and turned to zombies in this.
Yeah.
That's not really a spoiler either. Yeah, I read the whole book, the 6 issues, and by the end of it, you're not gonna be thrilled.
Yeah, it's not like this nice cookie cutter.
There's a little bit of like hope and optimism, right, but it's not like the hero saves the day.
Yeah.
It's pretty grim.
There's some funny moments. Like, there's a nice balance in this book of like the funny moments leading into, wow, I'm sad because everybody's dying. A lot of that comes
via Green Arrow.
Yeah.
He has a lot of kind of the lighter moments in this. And, you know, some characters take turns that you're not necessarily expecting. Black Canary gets a lot of great play in this.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy get a lot of great play in this. And
Superboy.
Superboy and Damian Wayne
yep,
both get a lot of great character stuff in this. So I highly recommend DCeased if you haven't checked it out. Even if you watched What If and like the zombie episode, check out DCeased because it's a very similar concept and it's super grim.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. If you don't like bad endings and bad story endings, like not bad and like poorly written, but like bad in terms of like dark, then maybe don't read this. But other than that, I think it's really well done.
Yeah, no, I remember I read this book a year ago, probably plus, and I just remember issue by issue, I was like, oh, this isn't great for everybody. This could be better for everybody. And I like that it's Elseworld. It's cool and it's cool in the sense of it's not just the heroes are going to save the day at the end. I love the concept of Darkseid finally winning, because he did win. He did exactly what he wanted to do, and it's not as simple as Darkseid won, the evil one. It's nobody wins in a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Darkseid loses too.
Yeah, he does lose. He loses pretty quickly too. So yeah, great read. Something that's a little bit different, not just in the normal DC universe. So, but still features everybody's favorite characters for long bits or short bits, depending on how long they survive. So
yeah.
Yeah, and then, like I watched Titans the first 2 seasons. I'm working on season 3 now. Before, it was an interesting show in the first season. A lot of great concepts. I know there's a bunch of gripes, the fights, the CGI, the storytelling. I guess my favorite part is Dick Grayson. I think Brandon Thwaites does a pretty solid job as Dick Grayson, and kind of his arc that he goes on is interesting. You see him as a police detective in Detroit. He's living in Batman's shadow, and it's the most simplistic stuff of a very complicated and convoluted show at some point. So that's nice. That
best live action Robin.
Yeah, it is. His suit's good. That's a pretty solid. I mean, the suits are honestly out. The only suits I don't really like are Aqualad's suits and Donna Troy's suits. They just feel like convention suits. But Hawk and Dove suits are pretty cool because it feels like somebody making a suit like that they've like redone a couple of times. And
I think they're my favorite characters from season 1. I love their arc.
Yeah, they're really fun, and it's a really emotional arc between the two of them, regardless of how I feel about Hawk's brother and Dawn's mother's death scene. I shouldn't have laughed during it, but it was just the CGI was not good. But yeah, there is solid moments. It's just I think what the show struggles with is just having to back off of the Teen Titan show that like everybody loved, including myself as kids, and then Young Justice too, because Young Justice had the entire DC universe pretty much in that show too, and done really well over a couple seasons. But getting to season 2, it's another cool arc for Dick Grayson. Don't necessarily love all the Batman stuff or the Bruce Wayne specifically stuff that they do, but yeah, there's some cool arcs, just maybe a little too many arcs going on. But if you love DC content, and check out Titans, there's some good moments. Dick Grayson's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Yeah, not bad.
So that's going to do it for us, I think. Next week, we don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Mystery.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, it's a
mystery box.
Yeah.
But you can follow us on Twitter at projectinf_pod. You can email us at projectinfinitepod@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, however that works. Instagram?
The Project Infinite Pod.
Nice. Nailed it.
Yes.
Nailed it this time.
I didn't even have to look. Feel good about myself. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got. Thank you guys again. I think we're reaching 400 downloads or something like that, which is just nuts.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane that you guys are taking your time out of your busy days, busy families, friends, work schedules, school, whatever it may have you, to listen to us laugh and have some fun and have some great takes and some crazy takes about fandom. And it's amazing to think that you guys are doing this for us. So yeah, we're gonna continue to pump out content for you guys, and there's a lot coming in the future, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, we're definitely not starved for content, even though we don't have a topic lined up for next week, but we'll find one.
Yeah, we will.
That's the joys of this.
Yeah, maybe tweet us or go on Instagram and DM us and give us maybe some topics that you guys want to see.
Yeah, you guys could do that.
Yeah,
email us topics that maybe you want us to touch on.
Yeah, maybe a comic run you want us to go over, a movie. Doesn't even necessarily have to be a fandom movie that you want us to go over, except for Catwoman with Halle Berry. I refuse to review that movie. That's it.
That's it.
I think that's it.
The Scott Lang of the podcast, everybody.
Yes. Yes, I got a good one this week. You're still Thanos for the dictatorship that you had, but
that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week for some episode that will be announced eventually. Until then, see ya.